But who will the professional victim Prince blame for the King and Co.'s absence if, as expected, there are no shows at St Paul's? My guess, everyone except the person whose fault it undoubtedly is. Him.
Things have changed a lot, clearly, in the 3 years since Prince Philip passed away.
Well, they certainly have. There was this great stability, I think, when the Queen and Prince Philip were together in Windsor Castle, because, as you remember, that was lockdown still. And they'd had this sort of reassuring presence which had gone through all our lives. And when he went, this was the first indication it wasn't going to last forever. And although the Queen rallied and sort of kept going for a while, it wasn't terribly long before her health collapsed. And as you know, she died in September 2022. So we've actually gone through a lot, and everything has changed, the whole sort of dynamic of the royal family. And then just, of course, as you pointed out, the King was getting into his stride and sort of enjoying being head of state and sort of making his contribution and the coronation and everything. Suddenly, he's disappeared from public view by and large, and Catherine, Princess of Wales, is also ill. So it is very, very different, and it's quite hard to get to terms with it all, to be quite honest.
And Hugo, what do you make of the public's attitude towards Camilla? Now very much, it would appear, accepted as Queen. It still seems quite bizarre to say Queen Camilla, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But yeah, how do you assess the difference in public opinion before they got married and now 19 years into their marriage?
Well, I was there the day they got married, and I was present at the service of blessing in St George's Chapel. And it was interesting that right up until the very day she married, she was kind of treated as the hated mistress, the other woman, the evil influence, etc. And then the moment that he married her, it was sort of, whoops, suddenly she's the supportive wife. And I think you'll agree with me that ever since then, she's been absolutely splendid. And in the recent weeks, when the King has been less than visible, she has really been the front runner of the monarchy, the public face of the monarchy, even distributing Maundy money, which no Queen consort has ever done before, just before Easter. And holding the fort in the same way, fun enough, that the Queen Mother did when King George VI was ill between 1948 and 1952. So I think, I think the public actually have completely taken her to their hearts and seen that she's been incredibly supportive of him and a very good influence and done an incredibly good job. It can't have been easy for her. It can't have been what she was expecting.
I wonder what the future is for her, because obviously she'll be Queen for hopefully a long time to come, and she'll be someone who we take to our hearts even more so, I would imagine, especially if the King is, well, hopefully he'll get back very soon, but at the to full public duties. But what she's doing at the moment is remarkable.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. And I think that, I always thought that people who say about the Queen Mother that they loved her as a sort of, chiffon-clad sort of granny figure. But actually, the real reason they loved the Queen Mother was because she had been incredibly supportive during the war. She'd really, looking the East End in the face and all that going around and all the things, it was earned. And I think in the same way, Queen Camilla is earning the affection and respect of the British public by the stalwart way in which she's doing her duties. And so, yes, well, let's hope that the King does come out and about more. Bound to take time, these things always do. I did see him on Easter Day, and he looked very animated and very alert. And as you know, we're seeing the pictures now, he went over and chatted to the crowd, and that was all really reassuring. But, it's going to take a while. And so she will be really with Prince William, of course, the public face of the monarchy.
We actually saw King Charles see for the first time his own face on these new banknotes. These are going to start circulating in June.
Mike Graham has his own banknotes. He did that 3 months ago. Why is this important? Mike Graham's got his own money.
We all can't be as important as Mike Graham. But, the King actually got to see the £5, the £10, the 20 and the 50. And he just seems so engaged and humbled while he's looking at photos of himself. But, it's fun. It's fun to see the process. It's also nice to see him out and about with everything going on. And I imagine that waiting your whole life for this job, this has to be a special moment for you. There he is.
Can I ask you something without being accused of being a bit down? And I know I've been ill. He doesn't look very well, does he?
You are a heathen. I am absolutely not going to answer that question.
Okay.
Well, of course, he's going through cancer treatment at the
But
moment.
he doesn't look very well with
Well,
it.
no, I expect that lots of people who are going through whatever treatments he's having for whatever cancer he has would be, you know,
Well, I hope he gets better.
But, I mean, look at him. He's doing, you know, some of his duties and he's able to meet with people. You know, that Easter service, people weren't expecting him to be out and about, but there he is. And, yeah, I just wonder how many of these are going to be in circulation and, indeed, when they will be in circulation.
Here's a question for you. You wouldn't know this, Kins, or maybe you will. Can you still use... Because Oliver came downstairs yesterday with a £5 note with the Queen's head on that his nan had given him 6 months ago. Are they still in circulation? I bet she knows more about our currency than we do.
You can use both, and the king's face will appear in June, which will go perfect for trooping. So you're going to see his new face on the banknotes in June. We're going to be celebrating trooping, and I have a sneaky suspicion that everyone will be on that balcony.
In terms of Prince Andrew, for 10 years, he flew around the world at our expense, allegedly doing trade deals or helping to form trade deals. He was notorious for always asking for hotels that were close to golf courses. We need to know about this decade when he was touring the world at our expense, and yet you're being told, I gather, that these documents have been destroyed or lost or don't exist. What do you make of all that?
Well, it's obvious there's a big cover-up going on. I mean, it's not one FOI request. These are dozens and dozens of FOI requests going back over many years that I've been putting not just to the Department of Trade, which was responsible for him, but also the Foreign Office, who coordinated the visits. And they put up a whole series of excuses. First of all, they have so much material that they asked me to focus my requests. When I focused the requests on specific visits and dates, having been briefed by the very diplomats who are actually dealing with the correspondence, I'm then told that they don't have this material. And they have a variety of things they do. They claim that there's a cost compliance and therefore it's too expensive for them to do it. They will play with semantics. You've asked for telegrams and we don't have telegrams. You've, you know, a whole series of things that they use quite clearly because they don't want to answer. And by the law, these documents should be put in the National Archives within 20 years. I mean, this is a statutory requirement, and they're clearly not doing that. And the big question is, where are these documents? Have they been destroyed? Something like 95% of documents are destroyed with no public record kept. Or are they just being hidden somewhere in Buckingham Palace so no one can use them? And I think these are important because we need to know who was accompanying on these trips. Were there people who were supporting British trade, or were they actually lining their own pockets? Many of the people I have researched, and I'm writing a biography of him, were actually paying off his bills and Fergie's bills. So there's an element of corruption, I think, going on here. And we just need a little bit more transparency and accountability to understand what has been happening.
Other than Scoop, I think everything's been pretty quiet. What do you say?
Extremely quiet. Yeah, you do realise that, well, there's tumbleweed blowing around the corridors of Buckingham Palace when people and the right-wing press, well, I just call them the Daily Mail because that's what they are pushing Eugenie and Beatrice forwards as the next hot thing. I always reckon that more than half of Britain don't actually know who Eugenie and Beatrice are, or rather they don't know which is which. One looks like Queen Victoria, the other one looks like Prince Andrew, but beyond that, how many people really care? And I think it's a reminder that we kind of really miss William and Kate.
That's such a good point. Yeah, I'm surprised that this conversation is happening now with Netflix releasing Scoop last Friday. This is the scripted story about Prince Andrew and how BBC secured their Newsnight interview, because there is a Princess Beatrice scene where she's in the room strategizing whether or not they should go ahead with this BBC interview. And she encourages her father in the scene, whether or not that's the truth, I don't know. I understand she was there for the interview too, but she encourages her dad in the scene and says, I think we should do this. I'm seeing horrible things written about you online. And so how bizarre that right after something like that, where a whole new generation of people are being introduced to the Prince Andrew Jeffrey Epstein scandal through this scripted drama on Netflix. Now they're saying that Princess Eugenie and Princess Beatrice could come back as working royals. I think that they've introduced a whole new world to the fact that they're involved in something so unsavory. I kept getting asked about Prince Andrew, Prince Andrew's presence, not only at the Easter service, but Prince Andrew's presence after Scoop. And, I just think that they are sincerely a very close family, like you just said. And I think we are under the impression, because of the fallout with Harry and Meghan, because of the fallout with Princess Diana, that they're, absolutely cold. But I think actions speak louder than words. And Prince Andrew is deep, deep within this family. They love him. And I think that's one of the reasons we see him continue to show up.
Yeah. And the other thing is, look who is the one cousin that continues to keep contact with Harry and Meghan. These girls know about forgiveness. They know about redemption. They've seen their cousin attacked. They've seen their father attacked. And at the end of the day, they know who they love. And often we judge people on the basis of how they treat us. And I have little doubt that Andrew was anything other than a loyal father. So in their experience, he's a good man. And I think that's a really tough one. And it's one of the aspects of the royal family that make it so riveting. We expect them to function as a company with a CEO, when in fact they're this bumbling, rather privileged family. And that leads to quite often, weird, unpleasant, unbelievable scenarios in the press. And the Prince Andrew interview was one of them, because he might be a great dad, but he's a bit of an entitled plonker in the public eye.
Prince Harry and Meghan Markle are going to launch 2 new exciting series on Netflix. One is Meghan, and it's going to be about cooking and gardening. I can hardly wait. I simply can wait. And the other one is going to be the Duke of Sussex, Harry, telling us all about that weird chinless wonder fringe sport, polo.
It's basically, these two sort of absolute narcissists. They're like, what do we do now? I know, let's make a series, one about how great I am and how everyone should emulate my life, because I'm so perfect and wonderful, and you want a garden like mine, and you want a kitchen like mine, and you want to cook some beige food like I do, and you want to buy all my products from whatever it's called, Riviera Globfest McVooney. And then the other one with like, look at me, I'm posh and I can ride a horse.
Globfest McLooney.
Well, I don't know what it is.
It's actually called American Riviera Orchard.
It was some
but
sort of
I'll tell you
Riviera
what this
thing.
does feed into.
Who
One thing
needs
I would say, Harry, no one cares about polo, except for
No one
chinless wonder
cares.
aristocrats who get on their little horses and knock a ball around. And if you ever watch it, it's useless. It's a really bad sport, but he seems to think it's fun. Anyway, the point about this new venture, it feeds into the narrative that there is increasing rumours, shall we say, that the gruesome twosome from Montecito are struggling for cash. They're going through money like water, and they need to find new streams of revenue, hence American Riviera Orchard and these 2 new shows.
A royal reunion could be on the cards, as Prince Harry is reportedly planning to make peace with his brother William.
Well, the brothers haven't been seen together in nearly a year, but the announcement of King Charles and Princess Catherine's cancer diagnoses could bring the pair back together.
So they say. Well, Kinsey Schofield is in Los Angeles for us. Kinsey, I've heard this a lot. I've heard this so many times. But is this right? Maybe there is some truth in this, because actually when you're confronted as a family with illness and 2 members of your family with an illness, maybe that sort of focused the minds.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely a possibility. And I don't want to be unprofessional right now, but I do think we all need to acknowledge how beautiful Nicola's hair looks. Like, the hair gods have touched, like personally touched her
Kinsey,
today.
stop it.
You look so good.
Thank you.
But no, I think that you're making a really great point. This is a very, this is a very traumatizing time for the family. And I think that Prince Harry must feel a lot of guilt being so far away and feeling so disconnected. Now, this is Richard Fitzwilliams talking to The Sun, saying, the Sussexes do like to surprise the family. They don't really tell people what their plans are ahead of time. So maybe Prince Harry is planning something when he comes out May 8th to celebrate the 10th anniversary of the Invictus Games. However, Prince William is going to need a heads up. Prince William, security-wise, and with everything that's going on, he would certainly know that Prince Harry wanted to have some sort of conversation, but no time like the present to reconnect and to heal some wounds. And we've slowly actually moved closer to, actually getting some potential real information here as to whether or not Prince Harry lied on his visa application or received special treatment from the government. Under a Biden administration, I think Prince Harry is ridiculously safe, but we have seen Trump throughout his presidential campaign over the last few months say that if he finds out that Prince Harry lied on his visa application, he refuses to protect him.
It's interesting that, isn't it? Because you can further look into depth about the American election, because they're saying that they are quite involved. I've read your comments that Meghan Markle participated in multi-voter awareness digital campaigns in 2020, and she and he appeared on the Times' most influential special for ABC News before, where they sort of endorsed Biden, didn't they? So, I mean, they are known, I presume she would absolutely loathe everything that Donald Trump stands for. So is this another attempt at them? I don't know. Why? Sorry, maybe I missed the point. Why have they got anything to do with the US presidential election? Why don't they just shut up and get on with their lives? Why are they so important? I don't understand.
Well, I mean, I don't know if I am able to transition into this story.
Don't talk about transitioning.
Oh my God.
Don't start that. It's a whole debate. Don't.
I know. It was just announced that their charity Archwell has partnered with Miles Taylor of the Future Us to help voters against disinformation. And this is a campaign, they call it a bipartisan coalition that Harry and Meghan and other Hollywood power players are partnering with to help the normal people determine what's deep fake, what is AI generated, and to help them kind of navigate this political season.
Now, Prince Harry's US visa application has been handed to a judge for review after concerns were raised about the legitimacy of his paperwork.
The Duke of Sussex has been fighting to prevent the release of his application after a think tank launched a case against him after admitting to taking drugs in his memoir Spare. Lying about past drug use is a breach of US federal law and could impact Harry's immigration status. Joining us to discuss this is our favourite royal correspondent, Michael Cole. Welcome, as always, Michael. The point about this situation is Harry, technically, in terms of American law, is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. Because if he is a drug taker, as he admitted in his book Spare, he's very keen on cannabis, cocaine and magic mushrooms, and he didn't put that in his visa application, that is a very serious offence. If he did put it in there, the question is why was he allowed to stay? Because if it was any of us, if it was you, Alex, or me, or any other normal citizen, and we said, oh yeah, we're really keen on cocaine and cannabis, we would not even be allowed to visit America, let alone live there. So there are difficult times ahead for the Duke of Sussex, I would suggest.
Good afternoon, Kevin. Good afternoon, Alex. I think you summed it up brilliantly. I think he's in worse trouble than he probably realizes. Let me read you the questionnaire for the visa. And the key question is this: do you or have you ever used drugs, or are you a drug addict? Tick yes or no. Well, if he ticked no, he may be in serious trouble because, as you say, his memoir came out in January last year, Spare, written by a prize-winning American journalist, J.R. Muringer. It's some doubt whether Prince Harry has ever read a book, whether even he's read his own alleged autobiography. But as you say, it's replete with mentions of him smoking weed, cannabis, taking cocaine, which is a Class A drug, it's a felony, and not much liking it, and magic mushrooms. Now, his lawyer has said to date that a book isn't evidence, and that is true. That is evidently true. It is not evidence, but it's very, very strong circumstantial evidence.
Duke of Sussex's drug use is the subject of a high-profile lawsuit brought by the Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C. Now, Matt, what does this development mean? Are we going to be able to see this visa application?
Possibly. So, as we know with Prince Andrew, once there are documents in court, the US lawyers or the judge could agree to unseal them. So it's currently sitting, you know, in court documents, and there could be a process where we get to see his visa application. And I'd say I don't think the son of the king queued up at a US embassy somewhere to get his visa. I think it must have been done by the Foreign Office or by the royal household. But this all comes down to his drug use and his confessions of drug use in Spare and whether he should actually have a US visa or not, because they're really strict on these kind of rules. So it's really worrying, I think, for Harry. Donald Trump's possibly becoming president, and he's already voiced his dislike for Harry. And it's a development out of his control, because this is not a court case that he's involved in. This is a court case between a think tank and the US government. And look, we could end up seeing what he said about did he confess to taking drugs on a visa application, if there is a standard visa application. I think this is going to be a worrying development in Montecito, because, as I say, they have no control over it.
Yeah. Rebecca, what do you think is worse? OK, so you've got the two scenarios. Prince Harry lied on his visa application, didn't mention his drug use, or he put it on his application but got the visa anyway.
I think what would be worse for Harry from a PR perspective is that he would have lied on the forms. I'm not confident he would have done that, because he's got so many advisors. Why would he, in his autobiography, be so open and raw and honest then, and then think, oh, hang on a minute, did I mess up the paperwork? Now, are you going to interject here and tell me about maybe Harry did apply it himself?
No, I'm just wondering, it was a chaotic time. This is a point I've not thought about. You know, it was his advisors and stuff. It was a chaotic time. COVID had happened. He had just left the UK.
Did he have any advisors at that
United States?
Who was helping him? And I feel like he's our lost prince, because if you've been sheltered under, in the royal family all your whole life, and sidestepping what did happen, if you think about humanity level in it, like, this is a young man who's basically been set out in the world and doesn't really know. He must have so many people trying to take advantage. We know from people taking pictures of him, people betraying him, so many things. I think we have to exercise some level of I'm just hoping maybe there was a mistake, and maybe it was done with you have to think of intention sometimes. Did he intend to mislead in order to get the visa?
And that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think if he did, then it's not going to look good for Harry at all. But if it was an innocent mistake or something happened, then I think hopefully we can all forgive him. But I know people like to hate Harry.
Just like the Nazi costume, an innocent mistake when he accidentally ended up wearing that. He just did the poor guy, just sort of ends up in the world and all of these things.
I feel some sarcasm.
I think that's just nonsense. If he writes a book where he actually speaks about, having a conversation with Courtney Cox's pedal bin in a bathroom, and the pedal bin replies because he's so off his head, or talking to the moon and the moon has a conversation back with him, he's fully aware of his drug-addled past and should confess it. Now, if he did, then that means it was glossed over. It means he's had special privileges. If he didn't, then I'm afraid it's yet another example of perhaps a little bit of dishonesty coming from Prince Harry.
First of all,
surprised you said that.
First of all, I think Meghan will come to support her husband because she's a good wife. And when she comes here, that will shut you right up.
How do you know she's a good wife?
How do you know she's not a good wife? She's a good wife because she supports him.
It's a matter of conjecture for both of us, isn't it? We don't know.
No.
We don't know.
I know from his own words how good a wife she is. So I think.
Well, that's no good.
The husband says
both of them are they're liars, aren't they? We know that from that interview with
She's
Oprah.
going to come to the UK and support her husband, and then that'll make you shut the
Well,
you don't say anything about her again.
Well, I did, I could be wrong, I often am, but more of that later. Your views, Daisy?
Yeah, I think there's a good chance, a better chance than you think there is, of Meghan coming over, partly to stick two fingers up. I think they'd probably find it quite pleasing to be able to do their handy-holdy thing and walk down the Isle of St Paul's and her be there. And I hope, and I've got nothing to base this on other than hope, that the royals do turn up for Invictus, because that does seem to me...
I agree with that,
the royals are, they are commander... He, the king, is commander-in-chief. They all have different regiments that they are, colonel of, and they hold veterans and the military very, very dear to their hearts.